Jesus is for you. Hey, so we're all over the fact that I'm old, right? And we can just pick up from here that we're friends, we've bonded through some things, and I'm just super excited to be here and be gathering again. That was a really weird last year deal where we were all shut in, and right before the pandemic, I want to introduce you to my family. Here's a picture of us on our way to Great Wolf Lodge. We went to Great Wolf Lodge. You guys know this. It's like a water slide hotel, and it's all like outdoorsy themed. This is my fam bam. So my husband, Jake, we were friends first. I dated a lot of guys and got my heart broken, and this guy was just a friend that turned into more, and he's amazing. We've been married 14 years now. And then I've got two boys, Brody and Deacon. That's Brody. When you get to Great Wolf Lodge, when you walk in, they give you these like ears. How many of you guys have been to Great Wolf Lodge before? Okay, yeah, so it's like water slides. When you walk in, I'll describe it in a little bit. That's Brody. Brody's my oldest. He's 9, and he's a sweetheart. He's very reserved. And then Deacon's my youngest. He just turned 8. They're 16 months apart. I get asked all the time if they're twins, which is kind of funny because I'm like repeating my history. I have twin brothers growing up, and I was like the only girl. Now I have like almost like twin boys in my life. So I'm a boy mom. And we went to Great Wolf Lodge, and we had such a fun time. And Deacon is my youngest, so he's the one that had the glasses on in the car, which, by the way, are not prescription. Like, he just thinks he looks cute in them. So he wants frames. He wears them to school, and he's really, really, like, just outgoing. So instantly, he makes friends at Great Wolf Lodge, and he's riding water slides with kids. I don't know who they are. They're his new best friends. And Brody's like more reserved. He's shyer about like his emotions, and I just love how sometimes he's just so literal, but there are these sweet moments, like we'll have conversations at bedtime about, Fortnite, or when we walk to like, we're really into Fortnite right now, by the way. And we'll like go to the movies as a family, and every now and then he'll like grab my hand and walk, even he's 9 years old, and we still have these moments. But so we're at Great Wolf Lodge, you walk in, everything's outdoors, you get your ears, you get checked in, and then there's the water park part. Like on the inside of the water park, there's like the wave pool. And it's a wave pool that like activates after a wolf howls. So like every half hour, oh, and kids like scream and all the waves start going. And then there's like a lazy river, and there's like a kids like splash pad. Brody liked hanging out over there. And there's like these huge water slides that are like connected to the wall that go in and out of the building. So you're like outside and inside. And so Deacon came back, and he told us he went on something called the Canyon River Run, and it looks like this. It's like one of those raft rides where you can get like a whole family in, and he invites us all to come, and he's so excited. He's already run it like 3 times, and so we get in line, and we are stoked. Like, you know how you get excited, but you're a little bit nervous? You can hear like the swishing of the water and people screaming, and you're getting splashed by the overspray of these water slides, and you start to think like, oh man, is this gonna be okay? Are we going to be all right? When we get closer and closer to the front of the line, and I notice Brody is turning white in line. Like he's sitting there and he's biting his lip. I'm like, you okay, buddy? And he's just like, and I'm like, no, he's not okay. He's not okay. And Deacon's like, it's going to be so fun. We're going to have so much fun. You have to come. I've already done it. You got to come with us. And so we get closer and closer to the edge of the line. And, the lifeguard picks up the big raft and smacks it down, and it's time for us to get inside. We all jump inside, and I look around, and Brody's not in the raft. And I look back, and he is still in line, and he's shaking his head, and he's walking backwards. And I'm like, oh, buddy. And I'm like, come on, it's going to be amazing. Like, you don't want to miss out on this. It's going to be so great. And he's just like, tears are starting to come down his eyes. He's trying to be so cool. And like, my mama's heart was so devastated for him. Like, you're going to miss out, buddy. And there's a moment where I just said, you know what? Just go meet us down at the bottom of the pool. And it's just so sad. Have you guys ever been in a situation where you got invited to something and you wish you would have said yes, but something made you hesitate? Something made you miss out on that. You said no for some reason because you had some hesitations, or you were too scared to say yes. Maybe you're afraid of doing something new, or maybe you were afraid that people might laugh at you if you did something that didn't look normal or wasn't comfortable to you. And have you all been there before? Or you missed out? Those are like those deep regrets in life. You've been talking about all week, Jesus is for you forever. And I gotta have a feeling like, when you're at camp, it's very kumbaya. Jesus is for you. Yes, I believe, he's amazing. But I gotta imagine there are some of you that are like, yes, I wanna believe this, but I've got my doubts. But my family is broken. Jesus, are you for me? But I lost friends during the pandemic. People just pieced out on me. Jesus is for me? Like, can I really, really hold on to that? Can I really believe that? And so I want you to know tonight is for you. I want you to just key in on some things, some invitation that Jesus wants to give you tonight. We're working through the book of John. John's amazing. If you haven't read the Bible before, the book of John is a great place to start because it's all of Jesus' life. So we're in John chapter 10 tonight. Eric actually read it to you before we got started. And he is talking about, and Jesus is saying, I am the gate and I am the good shepherd. And so this passage is actually a retort. It's a response to the Pharisees. You have to read chapter 9 to see what's happening. So chapter 10, Jesus makes this proclamation, this declaration, I am the gate and I am the good shepherd. And what that is it's a response to what the Pharisees were doing in chapter 9. So in chapter 9, the Pharisees find out that Jesus is actually, he healed a blind man on the Sabbath. And they're all in a tizzy about it because you can't do that. Our law is law, and you cannot work on the Sabbath, and healing is on the Sabbath. And so they bring in the blind man, they bring in his parents, and they're having this discussion about what is lawful and who Jesus is, and how dare he do work on the Sabbath. And it's all this major craziness going on, and there's a lot of confusion happening. And in the midst of this, Jesus chooses to reveal who he is, where he says a statement, I am. You guys have heard Jesus say, if you grew up in church, I am, he says 7 different ways in the book of John. And if you grew up in church, you know these, like I am the way, the truth, and the... Okay, I am the bread of life. I am the true vine. I am the good shepherd. I am the gate. And he's revealing something about himself. So what I want you to know, if you don't hear anything tonight, is that whenever Jesus says, I am, it's not just him stating his authority, like I am the Son of God. I am the way, the truth, and life. When he is saying I am, he's not making a statement. He's inviting us to more. It's an invitation to more. And so he's inviting us to open our eyes to something that we may not see. Maybe that's right in front of them. And the Pharisees, what they didn't see is that the Son of God was standing right in front of them while they were too busy worrying about how to be good enough for God. And these guys were well-known, well-liked, well-respected. They were praised for how they prayed. They were praised and revered for how much they knew the Bible. They were the most godly men that ever existed. They were so respected. And yet they missed Jesus right in front of them. I am the gate. I am the good shepherd. So for us to kind of get into this, what does that mean to us today? We got to get into the mind frame of the people back then, because shepherding was common for them. That was a common occupation. Jesus used terms that they would understand, and so he talked about shepherds and sheep. And shepherds were just guys who would take care of sheep. They would make sure that the sheep had places to graze, and they helped them give birth, and they protected them from eating, things that were poisonous, and they protected them from wolves, from harming them, predators and thieves coming in, and they took care of the flock. Their job was just to ensure the safety of the flock, and the sheep didn't have to worry or fear. They just got to live and enjoy, the sun and graze and live their lives because they had a shepherd caring for them all the time, wherever they went. So the sheep. So sheep is just like this polarizing term right now. It's so cultural, right? Like, oh, you're all a bunch of sheep or whatever. Or it's just, that's a political thing right now. Sheep. We have this thought of who sheep are. I got to tell you, growing up in Southern California, I don't have a lot of idea of what sheep are about, except one thing. So when I was a teenager, we would go to summer camp. And we didn't go to CIY, which is a big bummer. We went to a houseboat trip on a river. So we'd go on a river, and we'd get on all these houseboats. You'd sleep on the top. You'd water ski all day. We'd have like Bible study and like worship on the top of the boats and sleep on the boats. But during camp, there was like this day that we all looked forward to, that everybody talked about. Like when you were in junior high, you looked forward to this day at summer camp in high school. And it was a day that the houseboats would dock at Sheep Island. And Sheep Island was this legit island, I don't even know. It was probably like maybe, 50 yards like in diameter. It was not that big, and there were wild sheep just roaming around. We have no idea how they got on there, and they were never cared for. So they had like thick wool that was like stinky, and things were like dangling from it, and they were giant, and they were really loud. They'd be like baaing all night. And so on the day that we would dock at Sheep Island, you'd jump off the houseboat. You'd have to like swim through all the geech and the grossness. There'd be like leeches on you, and you'd get onto the island. You have to be like really brave if you're going to do Sheep Island. And we'd find like wild berries and like make war paint, because we were going sheeping. We were going to go ride these sheep without them knowing. So the way you go sheeping is you hide behind you. They don't see you from behind. So like you're at the war paint, and you're like all in camo or whatever. You're like trying to hide, and we're talking to each other this way, and it's your turn. And when it's your turn, you run as fast as you can. When you see that sheep, you run as fast as you can. You scream with all your limbs in the air, and you jump and attach yourself, and you go riding on that sheep, and you go sheeping, and they often would run you straight into a tree or a bush. And you were like legendary if you could pull this off. So that's what I know about sheep. I also know this about sheep. Check this out. So here's the question I feel like we're all thinking. When Jesus says, I am the good shepherd, is he saying we're dumb? Like, we all have our impression of sheep, right? We all have our impression from my experience sheeping, because they're all real dumb. And then, watching this shepherd try and rescue this sheep and him jump right back into the ravine. Like, what is this about when Jesus says, I am the good shepherd? What I've found as I've studied the scripture is that Jesus never mentions anything negative about sheep. So those are just like our impressions of what we think sheep are. But what Jesus does is he makes a compelling argument, a compelling statement that the good shepherd, what the sheep and the shepherd's relationship is all about, is the love and the care of the shepherd. It's not about whether or not the sheep are worthy or smart enough. It's not a depiction of us being stupid and dumb and following blindly. It's about the fact that a shepherd cares sacrificially for his sheep. In verse 3, Eric didn't read this, but if you go back in chapter 10, verse 3, it says, the shepherd calls his own sheep by name, and he leads them out. So we're going to just kind of talk a little bit about the shepherd and his role. The shepherd calls his own sheep by name, and he leads them out. And so what that tells me is that sheep to the shepherd are not just livestock. They're not just a flock that he makes sure he takes care of and corrals. He knows them by name. There's a relationship there. When one goes missing, he knows who that is. He knows exactly which one is missing, and he goes looking for him and her. And he is wanting to care personally for each individual sheep. He's inviting us to safe pasture when he says, I am the good shepherd. I'm inviting you to life to the fullest. And then when it says, I am the gate, so these go together. This isn't two separate statements. In verse 9, I am the gate. Whoever enters through me will be saved. They will come in and go out and find pasture. The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I have come that they may have life and have it to the full. I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. This is a direct strike against the Pharisees when he says this. He's saying this in front of the Jews and all the people there and the Pharisees that are with them. He's trying to show them all this nonsense of what they're trying to figure out as far as healing somebody on the Sabbath, and he's starting to reveal to them, look, I am the gate. What you don't understand is I am the gate. I am the one you go through to be saved. And so let me just show you a picture of what he's trying to explain. So there were two different types of pens, sheep pens, that the shepherds would lead their sheep to at night so they could rest. This is the one in the countryside. There's also one in the city. The one in the countryside was built with all these rocks so high that nobody could climb in, and it had briar and thorns along the top so that no one could enter in, and then there was this opening in the front, and there were multiple in the countryside, so lots of shepherds could use them. And in the front, you'll notice there is no gate. The shepherd would sleep in front of this sheep pen, this sheepfold, and he would become the gate. So as the shepherd, he lovingly cares for his flock. He also protects and becomes the entrance and the exit to the sheep pen. And so it's oftentimes I think it's interesting where, in verse 10 it says, the thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I have come that they may have life and have it to the full. So often we read this and think that Jesus is talking about Satan here. Like, I'll protect you from Satan. He's not talking about Satan here at all. That's completely out of context. He's talking about the Pharisees. Anyone who may lead his people in the wrong way. They come to steal and kill and destroy. And he's inviting us to not be obsessed with the law and to not miss who's right in front of us. I am the gate. And so I love this description, I am the gate, because you know what? So often in today's day and age, we hear Jesus, if you want to get to Jesus, he's a barrier, he's a wall, he's a fence. There's no way to get through unless you do something. No, there's an entryway. You can come and you can go and you can enjoy safe pasture. There are no barriers. He is for you forever. He is the gate. There's nothing keeping you from him. And so the invitation is this. Not only Jesus is saying he's the gate, he's saying, I become the gate and I'm the entrance to life to the full every single day. Every day. Have you all read Psalm 23? I learned the 23rd Psalm in first grade. I went to private school a little bit when I was little, and then my parents got divorced, and we did not go to church anymore. We didn't do any of that. And Psalm 23, I memorized in first grade, and I just keep this in my heart. But it is such an incredible description of Jesus being the shepherd, the good shepherd, and the gate. It says, the Lord is my shepherd. David writes this. He's one of the most famous shepherds. The Lord is my shepherd. I lack nothing. Well, I understand that the Lord is my shepherd. I lack nothing. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He brings me good things. He refreshes my soul. He guides me along right paths for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil. For you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. He's inviting us to be under his care, when so often we miss that. He's right there inviting us in. So there's two sheep pens, one in the countryside, one in the city. The one in the city is really interesting. So all the shepherds, if they have their sheep in the city, they would bring their sheep into the town square, and they would dump them all out in the town square, and they'd be penned in, and they could sleep at night. And they were all mixed up, like all the sheep were mixed up. And so in the morning, each shepherd would go out, and they would collect their sheep. How would they do this? Verse 3 again says, the shepherd calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. When he's brought all of them out on his own, he goes on ahead of them, and his sheep follow him because they know his voice. This is where all the shepherds would bring their sheep at night, and they would get mixed up. And his sheep would follow him because they know his voice. The sheep knew the shepherd's voice. Now, this is kind of cool. I don't know, how many of you guys have like a dad where you go to like an amusement park or like a grocery store and you have like a whistle or like a caca, like you can recognize the voice? Yes? Any of you guys have a weird dad like that? Okay. And you would know when you heard that, like, oh, dad's calling, we gotta go. This is the same with the sheep in the city pen. The sheep spent so much time with the shepherd that they knew his voice. He had a special call or a little flute jingle. And when he would enter into the city pen, he would do this call and they would immediately recognize his voice. They would hear it and they would follow him out, and he could collect all his sheep that way. It's kind of interesting. Guys, we live, like, what does this mean for us, like, as sheep and recognizing Jesus' voice? We live in like a really noisy world. And so when I was up here with Eric and he said, what are you going to talk about tonight? What I want to talk to you guys about is Jesus' invitation to more. And can you hear it? Do you really sense it? Can you feel him calling you? Do you believe him when he says he's for you? Or do you have noise in your life that's keeping you from experiencing that invitation to more, to life to the full? Do you have an inner critic that tells you? Maybe somebody told you when you were younger that you were trash, and you believed that, and now you've been living against and resistance, and you've been trying to fight that negative voice in your head. Or maybe you've got insecurities that are keeping you from really believing that Jesus wants to give you life to the full. Like, I don't believe like I'm deserving. Or maybe you grew up in the church and you had parents who said, if you're just a good little boy, good little girl, you read your Bible every single day, you'd be good. And you're going, I don't hear Jesus at all. I know all this, but I don't hear the invitation to more. I'm not living life to the full. I'm living life daily. I'm being a daily Christian. Jesus is for you forever. Verse 6, it said Jesus used this figure of speech when the Pharisees did not understand what he was telling them. The reason my Father loves me is I lay down my life only to take it up again. No one takes it from me, but I lay it down of my own accord. I have the authority to lay it down and authority to take it up again. This command I receive from my Father. I am the Messiah, the one you've been studying about, the one that you've been waiting to be saved for. You're waiting for me. I am here for you. I'm standing right in front of you. And isn't this just like us Christians? To get so caught up in our religiosity and our daily duty as Christians that we miss Jesus' voice and his invitation to more, his invitation to freedom, his invitation to love and real forgiveness, not conditional, but real grace that is forever. He's for you forever, not if you or when you. He wants to be the gate, and he wants to be the good shepherd in your life. Are you able to recognize Jesus' loving and accepting voice, the gate? You can come and go and enjoy safe pasture. It's not, we're all in and you're all out, or you can come in if. Do you experience him as the good shepherd, the one that you go to when you really need guidance, when you really need wisdom, when you're going through drama? Have you allowed him to reassure you of your value? Have you allowed him to speak his power in your life when you have moments of weakness? Have you been listening to the good shepherd's voice? When he says, I am, he's inviting you to more. Brody was, at the water slide, sitting there trembling. And I'm thinking, he doesn't trust right now. He doesn't trust us. He doesn't trust this adventure we want to take him on at the water park. He is in his head right now, and something is holding him back from all this fun, this more that we wanted him to go on with us. And it just broke my heart. We went on the ride, and it was incredible. It was so much fun. And Brody was down at the bottom of the pool just crying. And we came down and just gave him a hug, and I'm like, buddy, we're not coming back. You missed it. This was our last chance. I wonder how many of you guys get this opportunity every single day, this invitation from Jesus to receive his love, to receive his grace, to receive wisdom, to be connected to him more intimately than anyone else, because he's for you forever. And how often we miss that because we're afraid, because we don't want to look stupid, because we have doubts. Jesus loves you. He wants you to know that he's for you, and he's not going to settle for anything less. He wants to give you it all. He wants to be your shepherd.